In the 41st millennium, there is only war. But what happens when a master of the mystic arts, a man who has bargained with cosmic entities and walked between dimensions, falls into a reality where magic is heresy, knowledge is damnation, and the very fabric of space screams with the voices of thirsting gods? Dr. Stephen Strange had faced Dormammu. He had wielded the Time Stone against Thanos. He had navigated the infinite pathways of the multiverse and emerged with his sanity intact. None of it had prepared him for what came next. The anomaly began as a ripple in the dimensional barriers, a tear that shouldn't exist, pulsing with energies that defied every cosmic law Strange had spent decades mastering. It called to him from beyond the known multiverse, a wound in reality itself that bled impossible colors and whispered in frequencies that made his third eye ache. "Wong, I'm seeing something that can't exist," Strange had said, hands already weaving detection spells in the Sanctum Sanctorum. "A breach point that leads nowhere, or everywhere. The readings are contradictory." "Then perhaps it's best left alone," Wong replied, ever the voice of caution. But Strange was already moving, drawing upon the power of the Time Stone to peer into the anomaly's future. What he saw made his blood freeze, a cascade of dimensional collapses, realities bleeding into one another, the entire multiverse unraveling from a single point of infection. Whatever lay beyond that tear was spreading. "I have to close it from the other side," Strange said, opening a portal. "If I'm not back in 6 hours, I'll come find you," Wong promised. Strange stepped through, reality inverted. The familiar sensation of dimensional travel became agony as unseen forces tore at his consciousness. The Time Stone flared hot. Energies here were wrong, chaotic, malevolent, alive with hostile intelligence. Strange felt presences in the space between spaces, things that noticed him, that hungered. Then he was falling, truly falling, through a sky that burned with the light of a bloated red sun. The impact should have killed him. His shields absorbed most of the kinetic energy, but Strange still struck the ground hard enough to crack the strange metallic surface beneath him. He rolled, instincts taking over, and came up in a defensive stance, golden mandalas of the seraphim already forming around his fists. The world that greeted him was a nightmare rendered in brass and iron. Massive towers rose in every direction, their surfaces crawling with geometric designs that hurt to look at directly. The air tasted of machine oil and incense, thick enough to choke on. Everything, the buildings, the ground, even the fog that rolled through the streets, had a processed, manufactured quality that spoke of a civilization that had forgotten what natural meant.
Strange's mystical senses screamed warnings. This place was saturated with psychic energy, a roiling ocean of human emotion and suffering so dense it had weight. But beneath that, something worse. Tendrils of pure malevolence that writhed through the psychic landscape like worms through a corpse. "What is this place?" Strange muttered, trying to orient himself. His hands moved through practiced gestures, attempting to open a portal back to the sanctum. Nothing happened. He tried again, pouring more energy into the spell. The air shimmered, reality began to fold, then snapped back with enough force to knock him off his feet. Strange gasped, feeling the backlash like hot iron pressed against his mind. The dimensional pathways were blocked, or worse, they led into something that his instincts screamed not to touch. An alarm began to wail, a deep industrial sound that echoed off the towers. Strange looked up to see red lights pulsing across the nearest structure, and for the first time noticed the Gothic script carved onto every surface, text in a language he didn't recognize but somehow understood, prayers to something called the Omniscia. Figures emerged from the fog. They moved with mechanical precision, their bodies a grotesque fusion of human and machine. Robed in red, festooned with cables and brass instruments, they advanced with clicking, whirring steps. One raised an appendage that had replaced its arm, some kind of energy weapon that hummed with building power. Identify yourself, dimensional intruder. You have violated the sacred forges of Metallica. Submit to the Omniscia's judgment, or be rendered unto component parts. Strange raised his hands in what he hoped was a peaceful gesture, though the mandalas still glowed around his fists. I mean no harm. I'm Dr. Stephen Strange, and I'm trying to... Sorcery! The word was spat like a curse. Witchcraft detected. Warp contamination possible. Initiating purification protocols. The weapons fired. Strange's shields flared to life, absorbing the las fire that would have vaporized an unprotected human. But each impact sent feedback through his nervous system. This wasn't just energy. There was something else in those beams, a quality that felt almost like prayers given destructive form. I said, I'm not hostile. But the mechanical priest things kept firing. More were emerging now, some wielding weapons that crackled with electrical discharge, others carrying instruments that looked like they belonged in a torture chamber. Fine. If they wanted a demonstration, he'd give them one. Strange swept his hands in a wide arc, and the crimson bands of Sidorak erupted from his palms, wrapping around the nearest attackers and binding them in place. They struggled against the mystical restraints, servos whining, but Strange had trapped gods with these bands. A few augmented humans wouldn't break free. But the moment the spell activated, something else happened. The psychic ocean Strange had sensed surged, drawn to his magic like sharks to blood. He felt presences focusing on him from across vast distances, intelligences so vast and alien that touching their attention was like drowning in madness. And beneath it all, something laughed. Strange staggered, his concentration breaking. The bands flickered and failed. The mechanical priests resumed their advance, chanting binary prayers that sounded like condemnation. If you're hungry for tales of what-if scenarios that shake the foundations of the 41st millennium, hit subscribe and join the crusade for more content, because what happens next will challenge everything you thought you knew about magic, faith, and survival in the darkness between stars. Then the sky opened, and a ship descended, black and red, emblazoned with an icon that made Strange's mystical senses recoil. An massive eye, surrounded by a skull and crossed bones. The vessel's very presence felt oppressive, as if reality itself bent away from its hull. A voice boomed across the Forge world, amplified by voxcasters powerful enough to shake the towers. This site is now under inquisitorial jurisdiction. All Mechanicus personnel, stand down. The witch will be taken for questioning. Strange watched as figures in power armor rappelled from the hovering ship, weapons trained on him with professional precision. At their head descended a man in ornate armor, his face hidden behind a skull-faced helmet, a massive tome chained to his hip, and a weapon that looked like a sword married to a chainsaw in his hands. Dr. Stephen Strange, the figure said, somehow knowing his name, despite Strange having spoken it only once. By the authority of the God Emperor of mankind and the holy ordos of his Inquisition, I declare you suspected of sorcery, heresy, and demonic congress. You will surrender immediately, or you will be destroyed. There is no third option in the Emperor's justice. Strange met the Inquisitor's gaze through that skull helmet and knew, with the certainty that came from reading countless possible futures, that his answer here would determine not just his fate, but the fate of everyone on this world. He lowered his hands, but didn't dismiss the shields. I'll come peacefully, but I'm not what you think I am. And if you want to survive what's coming through that dimensional breach I was trying to seal, you're going to need to listen." The Inquisitor's laugh was cold and mechanical through the Vox speakers. "They all say that, witch. They all do."
The inquisitorial transport's interior was a cathedral of oppression, rendered in brushed steel and flickering candlelight. Strange sat in restraints that hummed with suppression fields, technology he didn't understand, married to what felt disturbingly like faith-based psychic nullification. Every time he tried to access his magic, the collar around his neck sent jolts of pain through his nervous system. Not electricity, but something that attacked his consciousness directly. Across from him sat the Inquisitor, helmet now removed to reveal a face that was young but scarred with the weight of horrors witnessed. One eye was augmented, a bionic lens that whirred and clicked as it examined Strange with inhuman precision. The man's name was Castor Voldrun of the Ordo Malleus, and he had introduced himself with the casual certainty of someone who had executed thousands. "Let us begin simply," Voldrun said, activating a data slate covered in Gothic script. "You claim to be a doctor. What manner of plague do you spread? Biological, mimetic, or is your infection purely spiritual?" Strange exhaled slowly, fighting to maintain composure despite the pain collar. "I'm a medical doctor, a surgeon originally, but that's not relevant to why I'm here." "Nothing about you is irrelevant, witch." Voldrun made a notation on his slate. "You arrived through a warp breach, wielding powers that defy the laws of physics as the Omnicia has decreed them. You speak Gothic without augmentation, suggesting either psychic influence or demonic possession. And most damningly," he leaned forward, "you bear an artifact of immense power around your neck." The Time Stone. Strange's hand instinctively moved toward it, but the restraints held firm. "This is the Eye of Agamotto. It's not demonic. It's a tool for manipulating temporal—" "Silence." Voldrun's augmented eye flared red. "Do you think me a fool? I have spent 30 decades hunting the enemies of mankind through the darkest reaches of space. I have seen cultists who could stop hearts with a word, witches who aged men to dust, sorcerers who claimed to serve higher purposes, while demon spawn crawled from their shadows. Every one of them believed they were special. Every one of them burned." Strange felt his carefully maintained calm beginning to crack. "This is not your universe. I don't know what demons or the warp or this emperor you keep referencing are. I was investigating a dimensional anomaly that threatened my reality and other realities. Yes, the demons love that lie. They whisper of infinite worlds, of places where the laws of the Imperium don't apply, of refuges from the Emperor's light. It's how they corrupt the weak-minded. Tell me, Doctor." The title was spat like an insult. "Did the voices promise you power? Did they show you visions of worlds beyond this one? Did they make you feel special?" "Nobody promised me anything," Strange said, frustration bleeding into his voice. "Look, I can prove I'm not what you think. Let me show you my memories, my origins. I have techniques that can—" The Inquisitor's bolt pistol was pressed against Strange's forehead before he could finish the sentence. "If you attempt to touch my mind, witch, I will paint this chamber with your heretical brains. We do not permit the unclean to violate our thoughts. We do not allow the demonic to show us proof. These are the oldest tricks in the enemy's arsenal, and I am not some fresh-faced acolyte to fall for them." Strange froze, acutely aware of the weapon's pressure against his skull. He'd faced down Thanos with 4 Infinity Stones, but something about this man's absolute conviction was more terrifying than any cosmic threat. Voldrun wasn't evil. He was completely, utterly certain of his righteousness. "Then how do I prove I'm not your enemy?" Strange asked quietly. "You don't." Voldrun holstered his weapon and returned to his seat. "You confess.
You reveal the nature of your patron entity, the location of any cultists you've contacted, and the true purpose of your arrival. Then, if the Emperor is merciful, your death will be quick. Strange closed his eyes, reaching for the calm he'd cultivated through years of meditation. This wasn't working. Every word he spoke, every explanation he offered, was filtered through this universe's lens of absolute paranoia. He needed a different approach. "Tell me about the warp." Voldran's expression flickered, surprise, then suspicion. "What?" "You keep mentioning it, and when I arrived, I felt an ocean of psychic energy, but corrupted, hostile. I've traveled across dimensions, encountered cosmic entities, faced threats to the multiverse itself, but I've never felt anything like what's here. So, tell me, what is the warp?"
For a long moment, the Inquisitor simply stared. Then, unexpectedly, he began to speak. "The warp is hell, Dr. Strange. It is the Immaterium, the sea of souls, the realm of chaos. It exists parallel to our reality, a dimension of pure thought and emotion where the laws of physics hold no sway. Every psychic human is connected to it, their souls like candles in an infinite darkness. And in that darkness, things hunger." Strange leaned forward as much as his restraints allowed. "What things?" "Daemons, the Neverborn, entities formed from humanity's darkest emotions, rage, despair, excess, ambition. They are not alive as we understand it, but they are conscious, malevolent, eternally hungry for the souls of the living. And they lie, Doctor. They lie with truths that damn, promises that corrupt, visions that drive men mad. And do you think I'm one of them? I think you wield powers that touch the warp. That alone makes you dangerous. Whether you're a daemon wearing human skin, a psyker who has escaped sanctioning, or simply a fool who doesn't understand the forces he's playing with, the result is the same. You are a threat to every human soul on this vessel and every world we pass." Strange felt the pieces clicking into place. This universe operated on fundamentally different rules. Magic here wasn't neutral, it was inherently corrupting, drawing from a source that actively sought to destroy reality. His powers, which in his universe represented order and protection, here registered as existential threats. "What if I told you," Strange said slowly, "that in my reality, magic doesn't work that way? That the forces I channel are bound by cosmic laws, entities that maintain balance rather than seeking chaos? Then I would say your reality has already fallen to chaos, and you simply don't recognize the corruption within yourself." Voldran stood, looming over Strange. "This is why we suffer not the witch to live, Doctor. Because the moment you believe you can master the warp, the moment you think yourself above its corruption, that is when you become most vulnerable to it." The ship shuddered. Alarm klaxons began to wail. Voldran's vox bead crackled to life. "Inquisitor, we have a problem. Warp signatures manifesting across the hull. Multiple contacts. They appeared the moment we brought the prisoner aboard." Strange felt it too, that same sensation from the Forge world, but stronger now. Presences focusing on him, drawn by his magic like predators to wounded prey. The psychic ocean was rising, and something in its depths was swimming toward the surface. Voldran's face went pale. "Geller fields to maximum. All personnel to battle stations. Prepare for..." The lights
went out.
In the darkness, Strange heard something that shouldn't exist. Laughter that echoed from directions that weren't spatial. Voices that spoke in frequencies that bypassed ears and resonated directly in the soul. The temperature plummeted, frost forming on metal surfaces in seconds. Then the emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in hellish red. The chamber wall was bleeding, not metaphorically. Actual blood wept from the steel, forming symbols that writhed and changed as Strange watched. And in the center of the largest symbol, reality was tearing open. Gellerfield's failing, someone screamed over the Vox. We're experiencing warp breach across decks 3 through 7. Daemons manifesting in the transmission ended in static and screaming. Voldrin drew his bolt pistol and activated his force sword, the blade igniting with blue psychic fire. He looked at Strange with something between rage and desperate calculation. If you brought them here, witch, I swear by the Emperor's name. I didn't, Strange said, feeling the presences closing in. But they came because of me, because I used magic in a universe where magic draws their attention. Your suppression collar, you need to remove it. So I can aid your demon masters, never. So I can help you fight them. Strange strained against his restraints as the tear in the wall widened. Something was pushing through, something with too many limbs and eyes that burned with colors that shouldn't exist. The demon emerged fully, and Voldrin opened fire. Bolt rounds exploded against ethereal flesh, each detonation accompanied by screams in a language that hurt to hear. But the creature kept coming, its body reforming faster than the Inquisitor could damage it. You know nothing, Voldrin roared, but Strange could hear the fear beneath the defiance. You cannot comprehend what you face. These are the legions of Tzeentch, the architect of fate himself. They have broken saints and corrupted champions. What can one witch possibly? The demon's claw swept through Voldrin's guard, sending the Inquisitor crashing against the far wall. His armor sparked, systems failing, blood seeping from beneath cracked ceramic. Strange looked at the spreading tear in reality, at the dozen more shapes beginning to push through, and made a choice. He reached deep, past the pain collar's suppression, past the warp's corrupting influence, into the core of his being, where Stephen Strange the Surgeon met Stephen Strange the Sorcerer Supreme. The time stone flared against his chest, recognizing its master's will. The restraints shattered. The pain collar exploded in a shower of sparks. And Dr. Strange stood free, hands already weaving patterns of power that made the demons hesitate. Inquisitor, Strange said, his voice resonating with energies that made the air shimmer. You're about to see what a real sorcerer can do. The daemon lunged, its form flickering between states of matter, flesh, shadow, impossible geometries that bent space around them. Strange's hands moved in precise, practiced patterns, and the crimson bands of Sitarak erupted forth. But the moment they touched the creature, they began to unravel. The daemon's essence was antithetical to the ordered cosmic forces Strange channeled, like trying to bind smoke with spider silk. Fascinating, the daemon hissed, its voice a chorus of stolen tongues. You wield powers not of this realm, mortal thing. You taste of elsewhere. Show us your truth. Strange shifted tactics, drawing upon the winds of Watum to create a barrier between himself and the creature. The shield held, but he could feel something wrong. The energy wasn't clean. It passed through the warp's influence like light through polluted water, arriving tainted. Each spell he cast left a residue on his soul, a psychic stain that itched and whispered. Behind him, Voldran was struggling to his feet, blood running freely from a gash across his forehead. "You fool!" the Inquisitor gasped. "Every spell you cast is a beacon. You're calling more of them." He was right. Strange could feel it. His magic resonated with the warp in ways it never had with any dimension he'd traveled. Each spell sent ripples through that psychic ocean, and things in the depths noticed. Worse, they were interested. The tear in reality widened. 3 more daemons pushed through, these ones different from the first. Smaller, more numerous, with skin that shimmered like oil on water, and eyes that held knowledge no mortal should possess. They circled Strange like sharks, chittering in that language that bypassed sound and carved meaning directly into consciousness. "The Changer of Ways sees you, strange sorcerer. He knows your name across 9 times 9 dimensions. He offers you secrets. He offers you power. He offers you escape from this prison reality where your magic drowns in faith and ignorance." Strange felt the offer's weight. Not just words, but a genuine psychic proposition sliding into his mind like a key into a lock. He could sense what they promised, knowledge of how to adapt his magic to this universe, understanding of the warp's nature, perhaps even a way home. All he had to do was listen, just listen. "Stephen, no!" Wong's voice echoed in his memory. "The moment you believe you can bargain with forces of pure corruption is the moment you've already lost." Strange shook his head, clearing the whispers. "I've turned down Dormammu. I'm not interested in your master's deals." The daemons laughed, genuinely amused. Dormammu, a prisoner in his own dimension, howling impotently at barriers he cannot cross. The architect of fate spans galaxies, rewrites destinies, corrupts gods. You compare embers to infernos, mortal. You have no conception of what true power means in this realm. Then let me educate you about what power means where I come from. Strange's hands moved in a complex gesture he'd learned from the Ancient One that drew not on external forces, but on the caster's own life energy and will. The flames of the Faltine erupted from his palms, pure, clean fire, untainted by the warp because it came from within rather than without. The daemons shrieked as the flames washed over them. Unlike his other spells, this one worked. The creature's forms bubbled and burned, their ethereal flesh unable to corrupt what was essentially concentrated will made manifest. They retreated toward the tear in reality, hissing curses in languages that predated human speech. But the cost was immediate. Strange felt the drain, his life force depleting faster than any spell should require. In his universe, such techniques were emergency measures. Here, they might be the only option that didn't risk corruption, and using them liberally would kill him. Voldran had regained his feet, force sword ignited, bolt pistol reloaded. He stared at Strange with new calculation in his eyes, still suspicious, but now uncertain. That fire, it didn't touch the warp. How? Because it's not magic in the way you understand it. It's focused will, life energy shaped by discipline and training. It's closer to what you'd call faith than sorcery. Faith. Voldran's laugh was harsh. You dare speak of faith. Faith is what keeps our Geller fields active, what allows our ships to traverse the warp without being consumed. Faith in the God Emperor is humanity's only shield against the ruinous powers. What faith do you possess, witch? Faith that I can protect this reality the same way I've protected my own. Faith that there's always another way, another solution.
That's what I do, Inquisitor. I find the path between impossible choices. The ship shuddered again. More screams echoed through the Vox network, interspersed with gunfire and the wet sounds of flesh tearing. The Daemon incursion wasn't limited to this chamber. They were manifesting throughout the vessel, drawn by the combination of Strange's magic and the failing Geller fields. Voldrin's jaw tightened. We need to reach the bridge. If the navigator dies, we're trapped in the warp forever, damned to sail the sea of souls until reality itself forgets we existed. Then let's move. Strange took a step and nearly collapsed. The exhaustion from channeling his life force was worse than he'd thought it would. I may need to lean on you. I should kill you where you stand, Voldrin said. But he moved to support Strange anyway. You brought this upon us. Every soul that dies today is blood on your hands. I didn't ask to come here. Strange leaned against the Inquisitor's armored shoulder. I was trying to save my reality. But you're right. I should have understood the consequences. In my universe, magic is a tool. Here, it's a wound that bleeds daemons. I need to adapt.
They moved into the corridor, and Strange's breath caught. The walls were no longer metal, but something organic, pulsing with veins of unnatural color. The floor squelched beneath their feet, and the air tasted of copper and ozone. Reality itself was thin here. The barrier between materium and immaterium worn gossamer thin by the Daemon incursion. A group of Voldrin soldiers stood at the corridor's end, their carapace armor scorched and dented, their lasguns trained on something around the corner. Their sergeant turned, relief flooding his face when he saw the Inquisitor. "My lord, thank the Emperor. We've been holding them off, but there's something different about these daemons. They're not attacking like Tzeentch's usual forces. They're testing us, probing our defenses, like they're studying something." "They're studying me," Strange said quietly. "I'm an anomaly. Something that shouldn't exist in your universe. They want to understand what I am before they decide how to use me." Voldrin's augmented eye focused on Strange with new intensity. "Use you how?" "I don't know, but I felt it when they were in my mind. Curiosity, hunger, and something else. Respect, maybe fear. I represent something they haven't encountered before, and that makes me either a threat or an opportunity." A demon rounded the corner, larger than the others, its cariform more stable, wrapped in robes that seemed woven from living equations. Its staff was topped with a flame that burned in colors Strange's brain refused to process. When it spoke, reality itself rippled around the words. "Opportunity," it said, answering Strange's speculation directly. "You are the catalyst, Strange Sorcerer. The moment where two realities touch. Through you, the architect sees pathways to your dimension, virgin territory, ripe for the planting of sacred change. Show us the way home, and we will grant you power beyond your limited comprehension." Strange felt his third eye opening involuntarily, his mystical senses expanding despite his will. He could see what the demon meant. His very presence here had created a bridge, a temporary connection between the Marvel multiverse and the Warhammer 40K universe. The dimensional breach he'd been trying to seal hadn't closed, it had stabilized, anchored to him like a lighthouse beacon.
And through that bridge, he could sense the warp reaching, exploring, tasting the edges of realities where magic didn't corrupt, where cosmic forces operated on different principles.
If the Chaos Gods found a way through? No, Strange said, though his voice shook. I'll close the breach. I'll sever the connection. With what power? The demon gestured, and Strange felt the warp's pressure intensify around him. Your magic here is like shouting into a hurricane. Every spell draws us closer. Every incantation is an invitation. You cannot close what you have opened, not without our aid. Submit, bargain, or watch as your precious multiverse becomes our playground. Voldrin raised his bolt pistol, but Strange put a hand on his arm. Wait! There is no waiting with these things. Every moment we hesitate is another moment for its corruption to spread. I know. Strange's mind raced, reviewing everything he had learned in the last few hours. The warp responded to emotion and will. Faith had power here, actual measurable power. The Emperor, whoever or whatever he was, generated enough psychic force to shield humanity across an entire galaxy. And these demons, for all their power, feared something. They'd hesitated when he used his life force instead of external magic. They tested rather than overwhelmed. They were cautious, which meant they could be hurt. Strange looked at the demon, then at Voldrin, then at the soldiers who stood ready to die on their Inquisitor's order. An idea formed, desperate, dangerous, probably suicidal, but it was an idea. Inquisitor, Strange said quietly, how does faith work in your universe, specifically? Voldrin's expression suggested he thought he'd gone mad. Faith is the Emperor's gift. It strengthens our souls against the warp's corruption. It fuels our righteous anger. Why? Because I'm going to try something I've never attempted before. I'm going to combine my discipline with your faith, create a hybrid technique that draws on both our universe's laws. That's insane. You'd be mixing the profane with the sacred. Or I'd be finding the common ground between two different expressions of the same fundamental force, will made manifest. Strange met the Inquisitor's gaze. You want proof I'm not corrupted? Then lend me your faith. Let me show you what happens when a sorcerer who protects reality meets a universe that runs on belief. Voldrin stared at him for a long moment. In the background, the demon laughed, confident in the impossibility of what Strange proposed. Then the Inquisitor did something Strange didn't expect. He knelt. Emperor of mankind, if this witch speaks truth, if he is indeed a guardian of reality lost in our darkness, then let your light guide his hand. Let your faith flow through him. And if he is false, let him burn in your righteous fire. Strange felt it immediately. A wave of psychic energy, but different from the warp's chaos. This was ordered, directed, emanating from Voldrin's absolute certainty. It touched Strange's consciousness like sunlight breaking through storm clouds, and for just a moment, he glimpsed something vast, a presence that spanned a galaxy, a will that had burned for 10,000 years, neither alive nor dead, but eternally watching. The Emperor's faith met the Sorcerer Supreme's discipline, and something new ignited in Strange's hands. Flames that were neither the warp's corruption nor his universe's cosmic forces, but something born from the collision of two realities' fundamental truths. The demon's laughter stopped. Impossible, it whispered. I've made a career of impossible. Now let me show you why they call me the Sorcerer Supreme.
The hybrid energy flowing through Strange's hands felt like nothing he'd experienced before, simultaneously burning hot and ice-cold, solid and ephemeral, his own will fused with something greater than himself. The flames were gold shot through with crimson, neither fully magical nor purely psychic, but a synthesis that made the demon recoil as if struck. "Fire!" Strange commanded, and the energy lanced forward. The demon raised its staff, equations blazing in the air as it wove defensive paradoxes, but Strange's attack passed through the mathematical shields like they were paper. The hybrid force operated on principles outside the warp's dominion. It was belief made manifest through disciplined technique, faith channeled through mystic training. The demon's form bubbled and cracked where the fire touched it. "What sorcery is this?" the creature shrieked, its voice losing coherence as its physical anchor destabilized. "What blasphemy have you wrought, strange thing?" "I'd call it adaptation," Strange said, feeling the power flowing not just from himself, but from Voldrin's unwavering conviction, from the soldiers' desperate hope, even from the ship's crew fighting and dying throughout the vessel. Their faith was a reservoir he could draw upon, not through corruption, but through genuine connection. "Your master calls himself the architect of fate. Let me introduce you to someone who rewrites destiny professionally." He thrust both hands forward and the flames intensified. The demon screamed, a sound that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously and then exploded into motes of ethereal matter that dissipated into nothing. The tear in reality it had anchoring, sealed with an audible snap, though Strange could still sense the warp pressing against the veil, hungry for entry. Voldrin rose slowly, staring at his own hands as if seeing them for the first time. "I felt it, the Emperor's presence flowing through you. That shouldn't be possible. You're not one of his faithful. You don't even know him." "I know protection," Strange replied, already feeling the exhaustion setting in. This technique was even more draining than channeling pure life force. "I know dedication to defending reality against those who would corrupt it." Maybe that's enough. Maybe faith and discipline are just different names for the same fundamental force, will directed toward a purpose greater than yourself. The sergeant stepped forward, his lasgun still smoking from sustained fire. "Lord Inquisitor, we're receiving reports from across the ship. The demon incursions are weakening. Whatever you did, it's working." "It wasn't me." Voldrin's gaze remained fixed on Strange. "It was him, or us, or..." He trailed off, clearly struggling with concepts that violated everything he'd been taught. "We need to reach the bridge now, before they regroup." They moved through corridors that gradually became more real as they progressed, the organic corruption fading, as if the machine spirit was reasserting itself. Strange kept pace despite his exhaustion, the soldiers forming a protective cordon around him and Voldrin. The Inquisitor's entire demeanor had shifted. He no longer looked at Strange as a witch to be executed, but as something far more complicated and potentially dangerous. The bridge doors stood ahead, sealed and fortified. Voldrin input an authorization code, and the massive portal groaned open to reveal organized chaos. Servitors worked at their stations with mechanical precision, crew members shouted orders across the Vox network, and at the center of it all stood a woman in flowing robes, whose third eye, an actual physical eye embedded in her forehead, wept blood continuously. "Navigator," Voldrin said, approaching with careful respect. "Status."
The navigator turned, and Strange's mystical senses recoiled. She was psychically active in ways that made even powerful sorcerers in his universe seem muted by comparison. Her consciousness extended beyond her body, reaching into the warp itself to chart courses through impossible space. She was a human lighthouse in an ocean of madness, and maintaining that connection was visibly destroying her. "We're holding," she said, her voice strained. "Barely. The Geller fields are at 60% efficiency and dropping. If they fall below 40, we'll be overrun. I've been trying to navigate us back to real space, but the warp is agitated. Something has them stirred up." "That would be me," Strange said quietly. "I'm sorry." The navigator's three eyes all focused on him simultaneously, and Strange felt the weight of her psychic scrutiny. Unlike Voldrin's suspicious examination, this was clinical, analytical. She was reading him the way he might read a mystical text, parsing his nature with expert precision. "You're not from the warp," she said slowly. "Your soul is different, ordered, like looking at a mathematical proof in a universe that runs on emotion and chaos. And there's something else, a connection, a bridge." Her normal eyes widened. "Holy Throne, you're linked to another reality entirely. You're holding open a door." "I didn't mean to." Strange stepped closer, ignoring the guards who tensed at his movement. "I was trying to close a dimensional breach when I fell through, but you're right. My presence here has created a stable connection between my universe and yours. If I don't sever it soon, the chaos gods you fear will find a way to spread beyond this reality." "Can you close it?" Voldrin demanded. "Not while I'm actively using magic. Every spell I cast reinforces the bridge. I'd need to stop completely, let my psychic signature fade, and then I don't know if it would work. I've never tried to collapse a dimensional passage from the inside before." The navigator's expression was grim. "And if you're wrong, if you try to close it and fail, then I've just wasted our only chance, and the connection becomes permanent." A tremor ran through the ship. Warning klaxons blared as one of the Geller field generators failed, its protection collapsing. Strange felt the warp surge closer, pressing against the vessel's hull like water against failing bulkheads. "We're out of time," the navigator gasped, blood flowing more freely from her third eye. "I can feel them gathering. Not just daemons, something bigger. One of the architect's greater servants. It's following his trail." She pointed at Strange. "It wants what he represents, the bridge to unspoiled realities." Voldrin's hand went to his bolt pistol, but not to draw it, simply to grip something solid in the face of mounting horror. "Options. Give me options that don't end with this ship becoming a daemon's playground." Strange's mind raced through possibilities. He could try to close the bridge, but failure meant making everything worse. He could keep fighting, using the hybrid technique, but that would only delay the inevitable while draining himself and everyone who lent him their faith. He could attempt to flee into the warp itself, draw the attention away from the ship. Certain suicide, but it might save everyone else. Or there might be another way, Strange said slowly. The warp responds to will and emotion, right? It's shaped by psychic resonance? The navigator nodded. It's why faith works, why the Emperor's light shields us. Concentrated belief has power here. Then what if we reversed the dynamic? Instead of me drawing from your faith, what if I taught you techniques to strengthen it? Mystic disciplines that focus will and channel it more efficiently. Strange looked between Voldrin and the navigator. In my universe, we call it sorcery. Here, you might call it weaponized prayer. Teach us magic, Voldrin's expression darkened. That's corruption. That's exactly how the ruinous powers infiltrate. It's not magic from the warp. It's techniques from my reality, where magic is ordered and disciplined. Mental exercises to strengthen your psychic defenses. Meditation practices to focus faith more effectively. I'm not teaching you to draw on chaos. I'm teaching you to resist it better.
The navigator's bleeding eyes studied him intently. It's theoretically possible. If his techniques truly don't rely on the warp, they might act as psychic insulation. Let us channel faith without exposing ourselves to corruption. Or it's a trap, Voldrin countered. A way to corrupt us from within while making us think we're being strengthened. Strange met the Inquisitor's gaze steadily. Then test it. Try one technique. If you feel any corruption, any wrongness, kill me where I stand. But if it works, he gestured at the failing Gellerfield indicators, then maybe we survive long enough to find a real solution. Another tremor, another alarm. The warp was getting closer. Vol'jin's jaw clenched, then, with visible effort, he nodded. One technique. And if I feel even a whisper of corruption, I'll help you pull the trigger, Strange promised. He turned to the navigator. You're already psychically active. This will be easier for you. I need you to focus on your third eye, not the physical one, the spiritual center of perception. In my universe, we call it the Eye of Agamotto when manifested externally, but internally, it's the seat of mystical consciousness. The navigator closed her two normal eyes, her bleeding third eye remaining open. I'm focused. Good. Now, instead of reaching outward into the warp, turn that perception inward. Find the core of your consciousness, the part of you that existed before you opened yourself to psychic power, your essential self. I see it, a light, surrounded by shadows. That light is your will, your sense of self. In the warp, it's vulnerable because you're extended so far beyond your core. But if you compress it, condense it, make it diamond hard instead of reaching wide. Strange guided her through the visualization, adapting techniques the Ancient One had taught him. You become a fortress instead of a beacon. The change was immediate and visible. The navigator's bleeding slowed, then stopped. Her face, which had been drawn with strain, relaxed slightly. She opened her normal eyes, and they were clear, focused, no longer showing the signs of impending psychic burnout. I can still sense the warp, she said, wonder in her voice. But it's not overwhelming me. I'm reading it through a filter, protected. How is this possible? Because true strength comes from within, not from what we draw from external sources. It's the first lesson of the mystic arts. Power without discipline is just chaos. Discipline without power is just philosophy. But the two together, he smiled. That's how you change universes. Voldrin was staring at the navigator's transformation with something approaching awe. No corruption, no whispers, just strength, clarity. He looked at Strange. Teach me.
Over the next hour, as the ship continued its desperate flight through the warp, Strange conducted what was essentially a crash course in mystical discipline for the most unlikely students imaginable. The navigator learned to maintain her consciousness separate from the warp's chaos, navigating without being consumed. Voldran discovered how to channel his faith not as raw emotion, but as concentrated will, making each prayer a weapon against corruption rather than just a shield. The bridge crew, watching their leaders transform, began requesting instruction. The soldiers who'd fought beside Strange wanted to learn. Word spread through the Vox network, and soon Strange was teaching techniques to people he couldn't even see, adapting ancient mystical practices into forms that could be transmitted verbally and understood by those who'd never conceived of magic as anything but damnation. It was exhausting. Every lesson required Strange to maintain his own disciplines while explaining them to others. But it was also exhilarating, watching these people who'd been taught that knowledge was heresy and ignorance was safety embrace understanding as a weapon against the very forces that fed on ignorance. Then the ship lurched violently. The Geller fields fluctuated wildly, and through every viewport the warp itself seemed to convulse. "It's here," the navigator whispered, her three eyes wide with horror despite her new defenses. "The Lord of Change's servant, a daemon prince, it's breaking through the Geller fields by sheer force of will." Strange felt it too, a presence vast and terrible, dwarfing the lesser daemons he'd fought earlier. This was something that had once been mortal, that had bargained away its humanity for power beyond imagining and been remade into a living weapon of chaos. It radiated intelligence, malice, and above all, curiosity about the strange sorcerer thing that had opened a door to virgin realities. "Everyone with psychic potential, form a circle," Strange commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd coordinated heroes against cosmic threats. "Link hands. We're going to create a unified defense. My discipline channeled through your faith, amplified by the collective will of everyone on this ship." "That's insane," someone muttered. "It's also our only chance," Voldran said, taking his place in the circle. "The Emperor protects, and sometimes he sends us unexpected guardians. Move." They formed up. Navigator, Inquisitor, soldiers, crew members, even servitors whose limited consciousness could still contribute to the collective focus. Strange stood at the center, the eye of Agamotto glowing against his chest, drawing power from his universe while anchoring it in this one's faith. The Daemon Prince manifested on the bridge in an explosion of impossible colors and physics-defying geometries. It was beautiful and horrifying simultaneously. Wings of living fire, skin covered in eyes that showed alternate futures, hands that held staffs of crystallized change. When it spoke, 9 voices emerged simultaneously, each speaking a different truth. Dr. Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, Guardian of the Sanctum Sanctorum, I am Kairos Fateweaver's chosen emissary. I come with an offer from the architect himself. Open the way fully. Let the great work of change spread to your pristine realities. In exchange, we will grant you knowledge of how to truly master this universe's laws. You will become more powerful than any sorcerer in either reality. You will transcend. No, Strange said simply. The circle of faith wielders behind him echoed the word, no. The Daemon Prince tilted his head, genuinely confused. You refuse unlimited power? ultimate knowledge, the chance to bring order to chaos itself through understanding. I refuse to doom infinite realities to save myself. I refuse to trade freedom for power, and I refuse. Strange's hands began to glow with that hybrid energy, fed now by dozens of souls focusing their will through his discipline, to let anything threaten reality while I still draw breath. The Demon Prince smiled with too many mouths. Then you will learn the price of defiance in a universe ruled by gods who feed on defiance itself. It attacked, and the real battle began.
The Demon Prince moved through space like concepts through a dream, simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, its form shifting between states of matter that defied categorization. One moment it was corporeal, wings spread wide enough to scrape the bridge's ceiling. The next it was pure psychic force, hammering against Strange's defenses with the weight of stolen destinies and rewritten fates. Strange met it with everything he'd learned in the last hours. The hybrid energy, his discipline fused with imperial faith, formed shields that shimmered between gold and crimson. When the demon's staff struck them, reality rippled outward in concentric waves, each impact sending feedback through the circle of defenders. Strange felt their fear, their determination, their absolute conviction that the Emperor watched and judged. "Hold," Strange commanded, as the demon pressed harder. "Focus on your core selves. Remember who you are beneath the titles and the fear." The navigator's voice rose in a chant, not the usual prayers to the Emperor, but the visualization exercises Strange had taught her, spoken aloud so others could follow. "I am the light in darkness. I am the self that endures. I am the will that cannot be broken." Others took up the chant, their voices creating a psychic resonance that fed back into Strange's defenses. The hybrid energy intensified, and for the first time the Demon Prince actually staggered backward. "Impossible," it hissed through multiple mouths. "You are teaching them to resist the warp through understanding. That is our domain. Change is ours to command. You cannot." "I already am," Strange interrupted, his hands weaving patterns that drew equally on mystic gesture and the collective faith behind him. He thrust forward, and the Tau mandalas erupted from his palms, but transformed. Instead of the usual golden constructs, these were shot through with imperial iconography. Eagles, skulls, aquilas, all rendered in light that burned with mankind's desperate faith in its dying god-emperor. The mandalas struck the Demon Prince like physical blows. Where they hit, the creature's form destabilized, its body unable to maintain cohesion against an attack that operated on principles from two universes simultaneously. The demon shrieked, and Strange felt its pain echo through the warp itself, a note of discord that every chaos entity connected to this incursion would sense. "You're hurting it," Voldran gasped, blood running from his nose from the psychic strain. "Actually hurting it. I've fought demons for 30 years and I've never seen one react like that." "Because it's never faced something like this before," Strange said through gritted teeth. The technique was incredibly draining, worse than anything he'd attempted even during the battle against Thanos. He was essentially translating his entire magical framework into a new cosmic language in real time, while channeling the faith of dozens of humans whose souls were simultaneously fuel and vulnerability. The Demon Prince recovered, its form stabilizing into something more definite. 9 wings, 9 eyes, 9 hands, each holding instruments of change and corruption. "You delay the inevitable, strange thing. Even if you destroy this vessel, others will come. The Architect's gaze is upon you. He has seen the bridge you represent, the doorways to realities unspoiled by the great game. He will claim them. He will claim you.
and you will become the prophet of change across infinite dimensions, whether you will it or not." "Then he doesn't understand humans very well," Strange said, and smiled grimly. "We're really good at doing the impossible when someone tells us we can't." He reached deep, past his own power, past the collective faith into something fundamental. The time stone burned against his chest, responding to his desperation. In his universe, it controlled time. Here, in a place where time itself was a suggestion and causality bent to the warp's whims, it was something else, something more primal. The stone was a fragment of fundamental reality from his universe, and reality itself is what this dimension lacked. "Everyone close your eyes," Strange commanded. "Don't look at the stone directly." He gripped the eye of Agamotto, channeling not time but existence itself. The ordered laws of physics, the reliable progression of cause to effect, the mathematical certainty that his universe operated on. He pushed it outward, creating a bubble of imported reality around the bridge. The effect was catastrophic for the Demon Prince. It was a creature of the warp, of chaos and emotional resonance and probability made manifest. But inside Strange's bubble, those things didn't exist. Physics reasserted itself with merciless precision. Causality flowed linearly. The demon's form, maintained by stolen futures and rewritten pasts, suddenly had to obey simple Newtonian laws. It fell from the air, its wings no longer able to defy gravity through sheer will. Its multiple forms collapsed into a single definite shape. Its voices merged into one scream of rage and, impossibly, fear. "What have you done?" it roared, trying to shift forms and finding itself locked in solidity. "This is not, cannot be. You're rewriting the fundamental laws of this space itself." "Temporarily," Strange said, feeling the stone's power burning through him like acid. He could hold this maybe 30 seconds before the backlash killed him. He looked at Voldrin. "Everything you've got, now!"
The Inquisitor didn't hesitate. He raised his boat pistol and emptied the clip into the daemon's suddenly vulnerable form. Each mass-reactive round penetrated and exploded, tearing chunks from flesh that could no longer regenerate through warp magic. His force sword followed, the psychically charged blade cutting deep and true through meat that suddenly obeyed physical laws about wounds and bleeding. The other defenders joined in. Lasfire, blessed bullets, even a servitor's industrial tools, all striking a creature that had been rendered temporarily, impossibly mortal. The Demon Prince thrashed, trying to escape the bubble of imported reality, but Strange held firm despite the agony coursing through his body. 20 seconds. The defenders pressed their advantage, their attacks guided by desperate fury, and hoped that this might actually work. 15 seconds. The daemon's form was breaking apart, its stolen divinity unable to maintain cohesion under physical laws that shouldn't apply here. It screamed not in pain, but in comprehension. Understanding that it had been defeated not by greater power, but by having the rules of engagement rewritten entirely. 10 seconds. Strange's vision was going dark. Blood ran from his nose, his ears, the corners of his eyes. The stone was burning through his life force, translating fundamental laws across dimensional barriers in ways it was never designed to do. 5 seconds. The daemon made one last desperate lunge, not at its attackers, but at Strange himself. If it could just reach him, break his concentration, the bubble would collapse and it could escape into the warp to regenerate, and Voldrin stepped between them, his force sword raised. The blade took the daemon's clawed hand off at the wrist. "The Emperor," the Inquisitor said calmly, "protects." 0. Strange released the time stone, the bubble collapsing instantly.
but the damage was done. The daemon's form was too broken, its essence too dispersed. Without the warp to sustain it immediately, it couldn't regenerate fast enough. The creature's body collapsed into iridescent smoke that dissipated like morning mist, its final scream echoing across dimensions as it was hurled back into the immaterium, shattered and diminished. Strange collapsed. Voldrin caught him, lowering him carefully to the deck. The bridge was silent except for heavy breathing and the soft hum of ship systems returning to normal as the Gellerfield stabilized. Did we win? Someone asked quietly. The navigator, her 3 eyes focused on the warp, slowly nodded. The incursion is collapsing. The lesser daemons are fleeing. Whatever we did, it worked. We're actually going to survive this. A ragged cheer went up from the defenders, but Strange barely heard it. He was focused on something else, the dimensional bridge. He could feel it, still anchored to his presence, still connecting his universe to this one. The Daemon Prince had been right about that. As long as Strange existed in this reality, the door remained open. And now that the Chaos Gods knew about it, they would send others, stronger entities, armies of corruption to force their way through. He had to close it, had to sever the connection, which meant, "Inquisitor, I need you to listen carefully." Voldrin knelt beside him, his earlier hostility replaced with something Strange couldn't quite identify. Respect? Gratitude? Speak, Doctor. The bridge is still open. My presence here maintains it. If I stay, chaos will keep coming, will keep trying to use me as a doorway. He forced himself to sit up, though every muscle screamed protest. I need to leave, have to return to my universe and seal the passage from the other side. Can you do that in your condition? I don't know, but I have to try. Strange looked around the bridge, at the faces of people who'd been his enemies hours ago and had become something else through shared struggle. I need to teach you something first, a final technique, something that will let you maintain what we've started here even after I'm gone. Over the next 2 hours, as the ship made its way toward the edge of the warp storm, Strange conducted one last lesson. He taught them the words of power, not the ones from his universe that drew on cosmic entities, but new ones, forged in the crucible of their combined faith and discipline. Words that were simultaneously prayers to the Emperor and focusing mantras for psychic defense. He taught them meditation techniques disguised as litanies, combat spells framed as benedictions, ways to strengthen their minds and souls that the Inquisition might accept because they were wrapped in the language of imperial faith.
"This is dangerous knowledge," Voldrin said as they worked. "If it falls into the wrong hands, then it's no different from any other knowledge. Fire can warm a home or burn a city. The tool itself is neutral. It's the wielder's intent that matters." He met the Inquisitor's gaze. "You're going to face a choice, Voldrin. You can report everything that happened here to your superiors and watch as they declare it heresy and try to purge everyone who learned from me. Or you can be selective in what you share, protecting these techniques so they can spread quietly among those who would use them to genuinely resist chaos. You're asking me to keep secrets from the Inquisition, to deceive my own order. I'm asking you to use judgment instead of blindly following doctrine. Isn't that what an Inquisitor does? Make the hard choices no one else can stomach." Voldrin was silent for a long time. Finally, he nodded slowly. "I will do what I must to protect humanity. even if that means protecting heretical knowledge from humanity itself. Emperor, forgive me. If your emperor is what I think he is, what I glimpsed when your faith flowed through me, then he'll understand. He's been fighting this war for 10,000 years. I think he knows that survival sometimes requires adaptation. The ship finally broke through into real space. Strange felt the change immediately, the crushing psychic pressure of the warp falling away, replaced by the cold clarity of normal physics. Through the viewports, stars shone with steady, reliable light. Strange stood on shaky legs, supported by Voldrin. Time to see if this works. He reached out with his mystical senses, finding the dimensional bridge that connected him to his universe. It was still there, still stable, still dangerous. He could feel the warp pressing against it from this side, corrupting entities testing its boundaries, looking for ways through. With his free hand, he began the incantation to seal it. But not just any sealing spell. This one was powered by everything he'd learned here. His discipline, imperial faith, the hybrid technique born from two universes colliding. He poured it all into the working, weaving a barrier that existed in both realities simultaneously. The bridge began to collapse. Strange felt it folding in on itself, dimensional pathways severing, the connection weakening. Soon he wouldn't be able to sense his home universe at all. He'd be trapped here in a reality where his magic barely worked and every spell risked corruption. Unless, at the last moment, Strange opened a portal through the closing bridge, a desperate gambit using the last reserves of the Time Stone's power. The gateway shimmered unstably, showing glimpses of the Sanctum Sanctorum on the other side. Wong's startled face appeared, recognizing his master. "Stephen, thank the Vishanti I've been trying to locate you for." "No time," Strange shouted over the dimensional winds. "The bridge is collapsing. I have to—" Voldrin grabbed his arm. "Wait, before you go. What you taught us, will it be enough? When the next incursion comes, when chaos returns, will we be able to stand against them?" Strange looked at the Inquisitor, at the Navigator, at all the defenders who'd survived impossible odds by learning to fight in new ways. "I don't know," he admitted, "but you have something now that you didn't before. Options, techniques, understanding that there are ways to resist chaos beyond blind faith and ignorance. Whether that's enough?" He smiled slightly. "That's up to you. Humanity has survived in this nightmare for 10,000 years through stubbornness alone. With actual tools and knowledge, I think you might have a real chance." "Will you ever return?" the Navigator asked. "I hope not," Strange said honestly. "No offense, but your universe terrifies me. The fact that you live in it without going mad is proof of either incredible courage or incredible denial, and I'm not sure which is more impressive." He pulled free from Voldrin's grip, stepping toward the portal. "But if that dimensional breach reopens, if chaos tries to invade my reality, I'll seal it from my side. And if I can't, I'll come back here to finish the job. That's a promise."
He paused at the threshold, looking back one last time. "Inquisitor Voldrin, Navigator, all of you, thank you for trusting me when every instinct told you I was the enemy, for learning when your doctrine said knowledge was damnation, for proving that even in the darkness of the 41st millennium, humans can still adapt, still grow, still choose hope over despair." Voldrin straightened, giving a formal salute. "The Emperor protects Dr. Strange. May your god, whoever it is, do the same." "I don't have a god," Strange said, stepping through the portal. "I have something better.
I have discipline, knowledge, and the free will to choose what kind of person I want to be. Maybe someday your universe will remember what that feels like." The portal collapsed behind him with a sound like reality sighing in relief. Strange stood in the sanctum sanctorum, Wong rushing to support him as he nearly fell. The dimensional bridge was severed, sealed from both sides with wards that drew on two universes' principles simultaneously. "Where were you?" Wong demanded. "What happened? You've been gone for 6 hours, and your life signs were—" "I was in hell, or as close to it as makes no difference. A universe where knowledge is heresy, ignorance is safety, and gods made of human nightmares feast on souls." He looked down at his hands, which still trembled from exhaustion and remembered pain. "And I taught them magic, Wong. I gave people in a reality where sorcery damns you the tools to use it without being corrupted. I might have just changed their universe's fundamental dynamic, and I have no idea if that's going to save them or doom them." Wong studied his friend's face for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. "Sounds like a Tuesday for you. Come on. You need rest, food, and probably medical attention. You can tell me the whole story after you've recovered." As Wong helped him toward the sanctum's recovery chambers, Strange looked back at the space where the portal had been. Through his mystical senses, he could still feel the faint echo of that other reality, distant, sealed, but not forgotten. He wondered if Valdrin would follow through, if the techniques would spread, if humanity in that nightmare universe might actually develop a real defense against chaos. He'd probably never know. And perhaps that was for the best.